Update. My mom got a $30,000 personal loan in my name without my knowledge. The account is from February, which was when they bought a boat. Now, they've missed 4 payments and told me they're going to let it default since the boat can't be repossessed, and they're going to call DCFS on me. Original post. I knew my mom had her eye on a pontoon boat for the past year. She and my dad retired in 2022, and while they aren't swimming in money, they didn't seem to be struggling either, or so I thought. They bought a boat in February for a little over $30,000. I didn't think much of it, since they've always rented a pontoon boat 2 to 3 times a year and didn't appear to have money issues. At the start of July, I began preparing to buy a house. When I applied for a pre-approval, I found out my credit score was barely over 600, and I had an extra $30,000 plus in debt I had no idea about. Even worse, it was 90 plus days late. I told the lender the account wasn't mine, and he suggested my identity had probably been stolen, likely by someone close to me, since the money would have had to go to a bank account in my name. I shared a bank account with my ex-fiancé, so I asked the bank to look into it. They said the account had been closed a couple of years ago, when we broke up, and no money had been sent to or taken from it since. I filed a dispute with the company and the credit agencies, assuming I had been hacked or that my identity had been stolen. About a week ago, I received a notice from the company at my apartment, the first I'd heard from them, saying they were going to charge off the account if payment wasn't made. I requested more information and was linked to their fraud department. They were able to tell me where the money was sent, to a bank account from when I was a minor that I shared with my mom. When I called the bank, they confirmed there was recent activity on the account, and statements showed the loan coming in and almost all of the money being transferred into what looked like my mom's account at the same bank. I haven't used that bank in more than a decade. I called my mom and asked her about it, and after a long pause, she admitted that's how they bought the boat. They made 1 payment on the account and realized they probably couldn't afford the monthly payment for the next 5 years. When I asked why they hadn't told me, she said it was because they figured I'd say no, and they were right, and that they had worked hard in their lives and wanted to enjoy retirement. It ended with them saying the boat couldn't be repossessed because it was a personal loan. My mom suggested I declare bankruptcy, and I told them I was going to the police. My mom said no too, claiming they wouldn't take it seriously. When I insisted, she hinted she might have to call DCFS on me. My 2-year-old burned himself on a hot pan earlier this year. A simple ER visit where we were told accidents happen and is fine, over an unsafe home. I still think I'm going to the police because declaring bankruptcy would make it impossible for me to buy a house. I just needed to vent and get any advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. She stole $30K, potentially ruined your financial future for 7 years, threatened to put your child in a situation where they could be taken and put in foster care for a freaking pontoon boat? OP, this right here. All this unnecessary suffering and stress over a pontoon boat? I'm sorry, but your mom sucks. Yep, this right here. It's all about enjoying their retirement. They're willing to hurt and abuse anyone who gets in the way of them having a nice retirement. Don't worry about the FCS. Chances are they will not investigate the report anyway. If they do, it's obnoxious, but these are 80% unfounded. You may need an attorney to represent you and file cease and desist letters that could turn into restraining orders. They stole $30,000 from you, and it was premeditated. They couldn't qualify for the loan themselves, so they stole the money from you instead, without asking. With a dollar amount, the DA is likely to press charges. I keep being shocked by parents who steal from their kids. This takes it to a fun new place with the threats of Child Protective Services. Please report this to the police. In addition, and tell them about the threats to contact Child Protection. For what it's worth, threats to file for grandparents' rights or to call CPS are a bright line for me. I would strongly recommend that you consider cutting contact with your parents or limiting their involvement with your family. They can't be trusted. Now for the update. I filed my police report the same day as my first post. The officer and I talked for about 20 minutes, and I provided a printed statement from the bank. A few days later, I spoke with a detective for another 20 minutes. Fast forward about 2.5 weeks, and my dad called to say my mom had been arrested. He said an officer and a detective showed up at their house asking to speak with her. When she went onto the porch, they grabbed her and arrested her. The detective, the same one I talked to, explained they had a warrant. My mom has never been in trouble with the law in her life, and she was arrested on a felony charge. They tried talking to her, but she immediately requested a lawyer. They stopped questioning her, but didn't allow her to see a lawyer right away. My dad was furious, but the detective told him to have a lawyer go to the county jail in the morning before she went to see the judge. The next morning, her lawyer spoke with her and she was released in the afternoon with a new court date. About a week later, I received a call from DCFS requesting to meet with me about my son. I had nothing to hide, so I agreed. He spoke for about half an hour at my apartment and I explained the situation. The caseworker seemed understanding and said there were no obvious issues, but she had to follow up on the report. I will say that if I'm ever in trouble, I'm hiring a lawyer. The case was dismissed at her next court date in late September. The detective called me the next day and explained that the state attorney believed they wouldn't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally stole my identity. He said he figured it was a flimsy reason because he had documents from the bank and loan company. He mentioned that the state attorney often drops cases, even clear-cut ones, especially when it's non-violent and they have a hired attorney. She never made a statement other than having her attorney tell the detective she didn't do it. The detective also said the loan company might go after my mom in a lawsuit. What brings me back here is that, a couple of weeks ago, the account was removed from my credit report. Even better, I got a letter from DCFS yesterday stating that the allegation against me was unfounded. I'm never talking to my piece of trash mom again. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and hope in my first post. It just sucks that she'll probably end up with a free boat out of it, unless the loan company sues her, which I hope they do. Send the loan company the address where the boat is kept, with a photo. The problem is, they took out a personal loan, not a boat loan. In other words, they borrowed cash in her name, then bought the boat with cash, so the boat is not collateral for the loan. They might be able to sue the parents, but they'd have to basically prove in civil court what the state's attorney would not bother prosecuting, which would probably cost more than $30,000 in legal fees. Personally, if my parents called DCFS on me for revenge, that would be the end of my relationship with them, never to revive again. I would never let them see the grandchildren. OP, freeze your children's credit too. Having lawyers send a cease and desist letter stating, since you took out a loan in my name and then called in DCFS, you are no longer able to contact me or my child. Attach a copy of the loan papers and DCFS report. If she tries after that, look into a restraining order. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to subsidize my wife and kids anymore? Original post. All three of them are adults with full-time jobs. None of them have contributed financially to our household budget. My wife went back to work full-time when our youngest was 7. He is currently 24, and our oldest is 27. The kids have no student debt. Our retirement property is overseas, and that's where I am currently. 2 months ago, I finally had enough. I came home from an out-of-town work trip, and none of the food I requested be in the house was there. And it wasn't anything extravagant, just a loaf of sourdough, some deli meat, cheese, and a few condiments. Enough so I could make a sandwich before going grocery shopping. Apparently, that was too difficult for 3 adults to manage. My wife and I had an argument about it, and the kids took her side. I reminded them they were supposed to be contributing to the budget, but all 3 of them started whining about how expensive life is. No kidding, I'm working to support all 4 of us. Whatever, I made plans to go to our property on my next rotation. So after my time off, I went back to work. When I flew home, I just stayed at the airport overnight and flew out the next morning. I also didn't deposit money into the budget account, so now they're paying for everything. The house, my truck, and my wife's car are all fully paid off. They're covering their own utilities, property taxes, food, and bills. And they're all furious that I'm not giving them money. I'm good here. When I go back to work, I'll do the same thing. Stay overnight at the hotel and fly to work. My company even flew me to a more convenient city to fly out from. I think 3 adults with full-time jobs and a free place to live should do fine. I probably missed a bunch of information, but I'm a bit drunk, so feel free to ask questions. If they're not stupid, I'll answer. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No, not the a-hole. What's your next move? It already sounds like you're separated. Is that becoming permanent? I don't know how to assist you, but I wish you the best of luck. I'd be curious what exactly is expensive when they all work full-time and have no rent or car payments to make. If their electricity bills divided by 3 are so high it eclipses a rent payment, they should use less. If they spend their money on food deliveries and shopping, too bad, so sad. Not anymore. Not the a-hole, but you probably should have made your kids adults long before this. From what you wrote, they appear to live with you and don't have much going for them. Yep, sounds like some parenting failure. Kind of made the situation is now like you guys didn't leave me sandwich stuff. That's it. Good luck. Convo should have been had 10 years ago. Are you even sure they're paying for things like the property taxes and other bills? Are they under your name? Because you might want to switch it out so they don't let it just go into collection and you end up with a bill. I work with a guy who taught me a very important thing. There's a huge difference between a problem and my problem. Now for the update. I woke up and read so many more comments than I expected. Many of them made me think, I really don't love my wife anymore. I love my kids, but they are leeches. I will be contacting a lawyer and initiating a divorce. I also will be pulling the plug on my retirement plans with them. I have enough money to last me the rest of my life here. I also have a defined benefit pension, but it won't kick in for another 5 years. Part of the reason I was working so hard away from home was to provide for my family. But now I see they don't give a half damn about me. I'll be offering my wife the house in North America and my truck in return for a fast divorce. I think that's fair. I'll keep my home down here. The other option would be to liquidate and split everything, but she spent 30 years getting the house how she wants it, so I doubt she'll go for that. If she wants to keep the house, I guess that'll be up to her and the kids now. Thanks for helping me turn a drunken rant into a life decision. I was probably headed that way, but an outside perspective crystallized my thoughts. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my sister's college when I'm paying for my fiancé's? So I, 29 male, grew up dirt poor. Like sharing meals and lights off half the month poor. My parents did their best, but with 5 of us, money was always tight. I hustled like crazy after high school, went to community college, then transferred to a good university while working full-time. I graduated with loans but landed a solid job in tech. Fast forward a decade and now I've got a good income and no debt. My fiancée, 26 female, is finishing her degree. She's been working too, but with her schedule and the cost of school, I offered to pay for her last 2 semesters so she could focus and graduate without loans. I want us to start our marriage on solid ground, so I don't mind helping her out. Enter my younger sister, 21 female, who's still in college. She recently found out I'm paying for my fiancé's tuition and flipped, saying if I can afford that, I should help her too. She's always been bitter about me getting out and doing well while she and the rest of my family are still struggling. I get it, but here's the thing. I've worked hard to be where I am, and I feel like my fiancé and I are building a future together. My sister and I aren't close, and it feels like she's asking out of entitlement, not need. Now, my parents have chimed in, saying it's family first and I'm abandoning them. I don't think I owe anyone anything, especially since I've already helped out when I could, paid off their electric bill last winter, etc. I'm torn. I don't want to be a selfish jerk, but I also don't want to set a precedent of being the family ATM. Am I the a-hole? Your fiancé is your family. Remind your parents and sister of that. You think he is an ATM? Better not to give a single penny. Exactly. Once you start, they'll expect it every time. Better to set boundaries now than deal with guilt trips forever. Tell them, yes, family first. That is why I am prioritizing the family fiancé and I are building and the family we will be creating. Yes, family first means focusing on the family OP and his fiancé are building together. He's prioritizing a future they're creating, which is exactly what he should be doing. Not the a-hole. You don't have to take care of your adult sister. You're not her husband, nor her father. She is an adult and can handle her own things. I'd go low contact with the entire family if I were you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my stepdad was cheating with our neighbor and ruining their marriage? So I, 19 female, found out my stepdad was cheating on my mom, and now my whole family thinks I'm the bad guy. Here's what happened. I was at a coffee shop the other day, just grabbing a latte and trying to chill. As I am sitting there, I see my stepdad walk in. Nothing weird at first, I just assumed he was getting coffee too. But then our next door neighbor walks in right behind him and they sit down together. They were super close, and at first I thought maybe it was just a friendly catch-up. But then they started holding hands across the table. And at one point, he leaned over and kissed her. Right there, in the middle of the cafe. I felt sick. My mom has been through so much, and I couldn't believe he'd do this to her. I tried to tell myself it wasn't real, but I knew I had to let her know. So I snapped a couple of photos on my phone, just in case she needed proof, and later that night I showed her. She was devastated, obviously. I mean, who would it be? She ended up confronting him and things have been a mess since then. She's been talking about leaving him and they're arguing all the time. Now here's where it gets worse. Somehow everyone in my family found out what happened and they all think I made a huge mistake by telling her. My aunts and uncles are saying I shouldn't have gotten involved, that it was a grown-up issue, and that I basically ruined their marriage. They keep saying my mom and stepdad would have worked things out eventually and that I'm the reason they're falling apart. I'm honestly so confused and hurt by all this. I really thought I was doing the right thing by not letting my mom stay in the dark, but now everyone's making me feel like I made everything worse. So, am I the a-hole for telling my mom about the affair and ruining their marriage? Not the a-hole. He did wrong. You looked out for your mom, but you are being used as scapegoat. Thank you. He is a total a-hole. If you kept this secret for your stepdad, your mom would feel betrayed by you when it all came out later. Sooner or later, everything comes out. So, most of your family thinks cheating should be kept secret? What a family you have. Perhaps there is more cheating and everyone is afraid you will squeal on them too. I would ask them straight up if they think what he did was fine and if they think cheating is okay. Yeah, they're probably cheaters as well.